Hey Python learners! Today we are learning about user-defined functions in Python, a very important topic that helps make your code clean and reusable. By the way, I have put a link in the description where all my Python videos are organized in one place so you can check that out anytime. Alright, let's start. So before we start writing code, let me explain this in simple words. What is a function? A function is just a small piece of code that does one task. Python already has functions like print, len, type, and many more. But sometimes we have to create our own functions, and these are called as user-defined functions because we create them. Think of a function like a machine. You give something to the machine, it works on it, and then gives you back the result. Simple, right? Let's start writing our own functions. So we are going to write our very first function. So for writing function, first we need to write def, that is def. And then we have to set a name of the function. So let us say greet. And then we have to put parenthesis and after that a colon sign. In this, we have to give spaces or four spaces or a tab. And then we have to write the function of this greet function that we are going to make. So let us say to print hello. Now we have created a function by using def and then the name of the function, parentheses and the colon sign. Inside that we have written to print hello. That means this function when we will be calling it, it will print hello. So let's call it by writing the name of the function then parentheses. Let us run this and you can see hello is printed. So we wrote the message only once inside the function and now we can call it anytime. So function helps us avoid repeating code. Next is parameters. So parameter is the information we give to the function or we can say the value we provide while calling the function. So if we see here inside greet, if we write name and then we say to print hello comma name. So that means we want if like name is Anjali, then we want it to print hello Anjali when we give the value of this name as Anjali. Now inside this we can give any name. So let us put double quotes and we need to give the value of this name. So let us say Aisha and if we run this you can see it is printed hello Aisha. So what exactly it happened that by writing this Aisha, this name got the value and then with print hello comma name, this the value of the name is printed. If we like comment this and if we just call greet and then run, then you can see it showed error because it said missing one required positional argument name. So as we have written here name, this function needs an argument and it's not provided here and that's why this is an error. Here name is the parameter. So now let us say multiple parameters. Let us make another function. So if we say if we want to add two numbers, then first we're writing def as usual and then the name of the function which is add and then we will be giving the parameters inside the parentheses. So here the parameters have to be at least two because we need to add something. So let us say a comma b and then we have to put a colon. After that here we can write print the sum is and here we can write a plus b. That is the sum of these two numbers, which will be input by the user or given by us, whatever. Now we have to call this function. So the name of the function is add. So we will writing here add, and then in parentheses any two numbers that we want. Let's say 2 and 2. So if we run this, you can see the sum is 4. Let us change this number. Let us say 3. Now you can see sum is 5. So again here what we did is we made a function named add, and here we have written a comma b, that is a is one parameter and b is another parameter. While calling it, we gave the value of both of the parameters. Like if we say we give only the value of one parameter, then what happens? So you can see we got an error, and again the error is that parameter's value is missing. So this was nice and simple. We can add any two numbers by this function anytime. Next is print versus return. So this is something most beginners find confusing, the difference between print and sum. So far our functions print the result, but sometimes you want to use the result in another part of the code. That's when we use return. Basically, what print does is it shows the result on the screen, but code cannot use it later. And return, it gives the result back to the program so you can use it later. Let us see the example for this. If we say that we want a function to multiply, then again write if, then let us say multiply is the name of a function, and in parentheses we'll give two parameters again, then colon. Inside this, let us use return. So return a into b. So what I have written is this function will return the value of a into b, and a what is a and b? A and b is the parameters, and when we call it, we have to give the value of those parameters. So basically, this function returns the value of a into b. So here, let us say print result, and here we can call the function multiply. And let's say the numbers are 2 and 3. If we run this, you can see we got result as 6. So basically, what is this? Let us write in two different lines so it's easy to understand. We can name any variable here. So result is this, and here we can write result. So basically, what we have written is result is a variable whose value is the function call. We call here the function multiply, and given a as 2 and value of b as 3, then this will return the value of 2 into 3, which is 6. So that means result will be equal to 6. And what we have to print is result in double quote. So this will be printed as it is. And then after comma, we have this variable result. So result comma 6 is printed. Let us see it again. So you can see here. So here the function gave us the result, but it did not print anything by itself. It was the returned value later. So this is useful when we are building big programs. Now let us see what is the difference between print and return. So print versus return. Let us use a simple program for this. Let us say add, and then we say here to print a plus b. And here we'll make another function. Let us say add p. P means printer, And here we can write R, that means return. So a colon is missing here. A comma B will be the parameters, then a colon. And here let us write return A plus B. So here we have used print and here we have used return. And that's why we made two different functions here. One with add B and one is add R. Now let us call both of them. So let us say X is a variable. Then we'll call this add B and we'll give 1 comma 2 as the value of the parameters. And we'll print this X. After this, we'll call y is equals to add return 1 comma 2 as the parameters, and then we will print y. So let us see this, and we can even write here x so that we got to know which value is printed. So if we run this, you can see 3 is printed, the next none, and y 3. So what we did here is here add b. This function, we called this function and gave a comma b as a value 1 comma 2. And then this function as it is called, we got the answer print a plus b. So print the sum is printed, which is 3. And then we printed here x. So this x, this returns the value as none. Because print shows output, but return gives output back to the program. Like here, add our function is there, and here we give the value as 1 comma 2 and it says to return 3. That means 3 is stored in y, and that's why when we will be printing this y, 3 will be printed. But here instead of x, none is printed because this just says to print. So it does not store the value, it just shows the output at once. That's the difference. Now the next thing is default parameter. Sometimes you want the function to have a default value. This is helpful when the user does not pass anything. Like uh, if we just comment this and we write a greet program again. So def greet, and inside this we have to give the default parameter. So first the parameter will be name like we had written above. And then for giving the default parameter, we can just put a equal to sign. And then in double quotes, we can write anything like user. So what happens is if we, while calling the function, if we do not mention any name, it won't give an error. Like I showed you at the starting, when we did not give any value to the parameter, it showed positional argument error. But by this, we can easily give a default name and make this function flexible. Like we can see if we print hello and then name. Here, let us call greet without giving any value to the parameter. So if we run this, you can see we got hello user instead of any error. And if you want to give a name, like there we give it Aisha. So let us see the same name. And you can see hello Aisha. So it became more flexible. It's okay if you do not give the value, and it also prints takes the value if you give so. So that means it works with both the things. Now the next thing is even or odd checker. So this will be something fun. So if we just comment this and we name here even or odd checker. So we need to make a function that checks if a number is even or odd. So first thing will be same, that is def, and then we need to write the name of a function. So let us say check, and then inside this parenthesis, we can write number and then a colon. Here we will be checking if the number is divisible by 2, then it will be an even number, otherwise it will be an odd number. So for that, we can say if number is divisible by 2. So for writing if divisible by 2, we can just check the remainder when divided by 2. So if it's 0, then the number will be even. So if number divided by 2 is 0, then we can return the value even, else what can we do is it will return the value odd. And then we can call this function. So let us say print, and here we're calling the function check, and inside this let us say 2, and we can see one more, let us say 13. Let us run this, and you can see 2 is an even number, 13 is odd, so it showed like this. So basically we used to write if and else condition outside the loop, I mean without an indentation, if we do not have to make any function, and just the use here is we had to write this function for different numbers again and again without, if we do not use this function. But now as we are making our own function to check even or odd, you just have to call the function and write the value, or I can say give the value to the parameter, and so it checks itself whether it's odd or even. We do not have to repeat the same program again and again. Now let us see the next one. So now the next thing we can do is to print numbers using a loop. So what it means is like if we need to print numbers from 1 to 5. So using just a loop, we can print the numbers between 1 to 5. So def is the very first thing we need to write, then we can print, we can use as a function or maybe print numbers so that we do not confuse between print and print numbers. And then inside it, we need one argument, and then we'll use the for loop. So for I in range. So we need to go from 1 to the number itself. So 1 comma n plus 1. I have written here n plus 1 because n plus 1 will be excluded and it will consider only till n, from 1 to n. That's why I've written it like this. And then we have to print the number. So print I. We can call the number now. So print number, and maybe the number is 5. So let us see. We got from 1 to 5. We say it to be 8, and then if we run it, you can see we got it from 1 to 8. So that's simple use of loops inside a function. Okay, so next is factorial. So if you want to write the factorial of a number, so first we have to write def, then we can write fact in short, the name of the function, then we have to give one parameter n, and inside this, to write the factorial, what we have to do is we have to first make a variable with the value 1 and then multiply with every number till n is reached. Like if we want the factorial of 3, if we want this 3 factorial, then what we have to do is we have to take 1, then multiply with 1 plus 1, which is 2, then multiply it with 3 till this number c. So this is 3 and this is also 3. So that way we have to go. So let us say result, or maybe in short res, is 1, and then we'll use the follow for I in range 1 comma n plus 1. We'll multiply, so res multiply equal to I, and at the last we will return the value of result. Okay, here the variables res. So we have to return the value of res, and then we have to call this function. So here we will say it to print, then factorial of 5, let us say. So factorial of 5 is 120, and yeah, we got the same answer. Let us say it to be 4, which is 24. We got it correct again. Next, programs to convert temperature between Celsius and Fahrenheit. Okay, so Celsius to Fahrenheit converter. For this, we again have a function like maybe C underscore F, we can name it. And inside it, we want the temperature to be input, let's say C, because we want it to be C, and then it will be converted to F. Then we'll write return and the formula to convert from Celsius to Fahrenheit, which is C into 9 by 5 plus 32, and then we'll print C underscore F, and inside this we can give any value, for example 25. So you can see we got 77 Fahrenheit, that is 25 degrees Celsius is 77 Fahrenheit. If you want to do more conversions like from Fahrenheit to Celsius or maybe into Kelvin, then you can go and check out my video of temperature converter. Okay, so the next thing is to make a palindrome checker. So first, what's a palindrome? So if we write like this A, N, and A. So you can see from starting and from the end, it reads the same thing. Or if we just say madam, then also you can see from starting and from the end, it's the same. Or maybe race car, then again, it's the same thing. And if we write something hello, then you can see it's not the same from starting and from the end, so it's not a palindrome. So basically, to check whether a word is a palindrome or not, you need to reverse the word. If the reversed word is equal to the actual word, then it means it's a palindrome. So let us make this function. So def palindrome, and we have to input that. So maybe n. Then first we have to lower the input. Like if we say this, so this is a palindrome, of course, but it will not be considered a palindrome by the computer because this R is capital and this is small. Both are different for the computer. So first we have to lower the all the letters. So n is equals to n dot lower. Then we have to reverse it. So n is equal to n, and then we can select all of the letters from the starting to the end. So that means we can put colon to colon. That means from the starting to the end. And it should be reversed like this. We have to. So -1. So from starting to the end with the difference of -1. And this value is to be returned. So directly we can write here return. Now let us call this function. So if we say print and the name of the function, and then raise car. Okay, so it should be a string. So we have to put double quotes here. And then if you run this, you can see we got the value true. And that means race car is a palindrome. If you write here hello, then you can see we got the value false. So let us move to our next program, that is to count vowels in a string. Count vowels in a string. I would suggest first pause the video and try this code yourself and then check out the answer from here. Alright, I hope you tried. So let us start. So first we need to write def, then maybe count, and we have to take input, or we have to name a parameter. So let us say text and then a colon. Now we will tell the computer what all vowels are there. So vowels are A, E, I, O, U. So we'll be mentioning this A, E, I, O, U like this. And then we'll iterate over the input text. So we'll say for I in text, and we have written here in small, so we can write here dot lower. Otherwise, we could have written it AEIU small and then with capital also, both the things in this. But it's okay. We can use this lower also. And then a colon sign. So for I in text dot lower, we have to count the number of variables. So if I in vowels, then we have to increase the count by 1. So for that, we need a variable here, count is equal to 0, and then count plus equal to 1. And then at the last, we will return count. So you see here, we have written a count, we have written this after the for loop is completed. It should be if I in vowels. So basically what this program says is first we have defined what are vowels and then we iterate over the text. So let us say our text is hello. So our text is hello, and then for I in text dot lower means small h is our I. Then if I in vowels, uh, so this h is not there in vowels. So we can increase the count by 1. Or better, instead of I think I should take another variable to explain because I is a vowel itself. So if we take this variable char, char will be small h first and then it's not there in this vowel. So it will not increase the count by 1. It will just go to this again. So next thing will be E. So E is there in vowel, so count will be increased by 1 like this. All the vowels will be counted in the word. So let us run this and you can see we have 2 vowels in the word. If you are finding the video helpful, do hit the like button. Okay, so let's move to the next program, which is to find the greatest of two numbers. So if you want to calculate the greatest of two numbers, first we have to make our code that is greatest. Then inside it we'll say a comma b with the two parameters with a colon sign. Now we'll check whether a is greater or b. So we'll say if a is greater than b, then we'll return the value a. Otherwise, we'll return b. And then we'll call this. So greatest, and let us say 10 comma 20 inside print. So we can see got the answer as 20. If we say here 3, if we run this, you can see we got here 30 as the answer. So what have we written is if A is greater than B, then it will go to this condition, otherwise it will directly come to this condition. So here we have not written else, so it's not required. We can simply write this written B here instead of writing in else. You can also write in else, of course, but this is another way. So let us move to the next one, which is to make a simple interest calculator. Okay, so the formula for simple interest is PRT upon 100. So if you want to make a simple interest calculator, we can write here calc, short form for calculator. Then we have to define three things here, PRT, because simple interest is PRT upon 100. Now we need to return the value P into R into T and this whole divide by 100. And then we have to print calc, which is we are calling the function, and the inside this should be three values. So let us say 1000, 5, 2, which says that the time period is 2 years, then rate is 5%, and the principal amount is 1000. Now let us see by running, we got 100 as the answer. PRT upon 100. So this value is 100. Next is to create a function that prints a pattern. Okay, so we have to create a pattern here, basically a star pattern. So for creating the star pattern will be like 1 star and then 2 star, 3 stars like this. So first we will be making a function named as star. Inside this will be n, that is how many rows should be there in the star pattern. Then use the for loop. So for I in range 1 comma n plus 1, and then we'll simply print the star. So I have written this in double quotes because we likely have to print the star, and then this will be multiplied. So the one inside quotes is star and the one outside double quotes is multiply. So this multiplied by I, and then we will call this function star, then a we can say 5. So we can see we got a half triangle or a star pattern. If you want to learn how to make more kind of these patterns, you can check out my video on pattern. So now let's move ahead to the next program, which is to write the sum of squares. So here there are two things. One is sum and other is square. So first let us make the function square. So if we want to square a number, we need only one argument, let us say x, and then what should return x into x. Another thing will be to sum them. So one another will be def sum. And inside the sum should be two like parameters like a comma b. And here we can say to return the uh, sum of square of a plus square of b. So this is basically we're writing the sum of the square of two numbers. So square of a added with square of b, this whole value will be written in this sum. So when we call this print, and here we call the function sum, and then maybe any two arguments like 2, 3, and if you run this, you can see 4 plus 9 is 30 and we got this answer. So this is how big programs are built, small functions working together. Next thing is to make a mail address validator. So to make a mail validator, what should what is the requirement that the mail ID should contain at the rate sign and a dot. So we can make this def, and maybe we can write is valid or is valid email, whatever. And then inside this we'll take input of the email. After this we'll write return, and we'll see if at the rate and dot both are there in the mail. So at the rate in email, and here we'll write dot in email. So return this means if this value is true, that is if at the rate and dot both are there in mail, then this true will be returned. Otherwise, if one of them or both of them are not there, then false will be returned. Let us say print, and here we say is valid, and then we say here smart info, then at the rate gmail.com, and if we give another like is valid, so we can say here smartinfo gmail.com, and we can write here one more, like we can write here at the rate and remove the dot com dot, I mean. So basically we are trying the four different situations. To run this, we can say first one is true and rest are false. First one has at the rate and dot in this email ID, and the rest do not have so. That's why three are false and the first one is true. Let us say the next one is reverse a string. So if you want to reverse a string, we just have to do similar to what we have done in Palindrome. We have to use from the starting to the end of the word with the difference of -1. And this is a do-it-yourself question. If you found any difficulty, you can comment below. Next one is to check positive, negative, or 0. So if you want to check, so we can give here n. And now if we have to see if it's greater than 0, then it's a positive number. So we can simply return positive. Elif, if n is 0, then we have to return here 0. Otherwise, what we have to return is negative. And at the end, we'll call function. So we'll write print, and then we'll call the function, and inside this, we will write, for example, 0. So you can see 0 is printed. Now if we say this is 7, can see it's a positive number, and if you say -7, then it's a negative number. So basically just if in else conditions, if this is true, then this will be returned like this. Return negative will be there when the number is not 0 or positive. So again, we haven't used or else, or otherwise we can even do this. Okay, so next is to calculate the average of a list. So the formula for average is sum of all observations upon the number of observations. So in technical term in Python, we can say length, because length calculates the count. Length is the count or the number of observations. So that's why I've written here length, or otherwise we can even write this count. So let us make the function. Inside this, we'll write numbers, let's say, and then we'll return the sum of the numbers divide by the length of the numbers. So as I said, that length gives the count or the number of observations. So we have written length of numbers, and sum is already a function in Python, built-in function, so it's not required to be made. So we have directly used it sum upon length. Next thing will be to call the function. So print average, and inside this will make a list. So it can be 10, 20, 30, and 40. Let us run this. So we got 25 because the sum of all four is 100 divided by 4, which is 25. Thanks for watching, Python learners. If this video helped you, make sure to like it, share it, and subscribe for more beginner-friendly Python videos. And don't forget, the link in the description has all Python videos arranged in order, so do check it out. See you in the next one, and happy coding!